When I watched Couture, what surprised me most wasn't the fashion, the runway, or even the setting. It was how quiet the film chose to be. In a world defined by chaos, noise, and constant movement, this story deliberately slows down and asks you to sit with discomfort instead of spectacle. Directed by French filmmaker Alice Winocour, Couture premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival, and it places Angelina Jolie at the center of a restrained and introspective drama. This isn't a glamorous fashion film, and it's certainly not a star vehicle designed to overwhelm you emotionally. Instead, it's a study of three women whose lives briefly intersect during Paris Fashion Week, each carrying a weight that has nothing to do with couture. Angelina Jolie plays Maxine Walker, an independent horror filmmaker known for her gothic style. She's hired to direct a short film for a fashion show, but that assignment is almost incidental. Maxine arrives in Paris after being diagnosed with cancer, and mortality hangs over everything she does. Even the vampire film she's working on feels less like genre and more like a reflection of her own fear of time running out. Maxine is a character defined by conflict. She's dealing with the fallout of a painful divorce and a strained relationship with her daughter, whose presence is felt only through phone calls. She's torn between ambition and responsibility, between protecting her health and chasing the next project that could define her career. For someone who has built their identity around work, this is not a simple choice. It's a crisis. Running parallel to Maxine's story is Ada, an 18-year-old model from South Sudan played by Angelli. Ada has just arrived in France for her first job, stepping into a fashion world that is overwhelmingly white, fast-moving, and indifferent. She's surrounded by beauty, but not warmth. As she tries to find her place, she's constantly pulled between opportunity and isolation. Ada has left her mother, father, and brother behind. Her father doesn't fully understand why she's in Paris, and her brother keeps asking when she's coming home. The truth is, Ada doesn't know. The future she imagined is already slipping out of focus, replaced by uncertainty and pressure disguised as success. The third woman at the center of Couture is Angelli, played by Ella Rumpf. She's a seasoned makeup artist working behind the scenes while secretly writing her first book. Angelli is perhaps the most enigmatic of the three. She's the only one who truly calls Paris home, yet she feels just as unsettled. She balances creative ambition with the exhausting demands of her job, constantly moving, constantly adjusting, never stopping long enough to feel grounded. Winocour doesn't approach these women with melodrama. The camera doesn't chase emotional climaxes. Instead, it lingers. It watches how these characters move through rooms, through hallways, through moments of silence. Couture doesn't ask you to feel everything all at once. It asks you to notice the rhythms of daily life and the quiet toll they take. Visually, the film avoids sweeping emotional highs. It doesn't rely on music cues to tell you how to feel. Instead, it leaves space, sometimes too much space. At times, the emotional depth feels like fabric left on the cutting room floor. The contrast between the high-energy fashion world and the film's subdued tone is intentional, but it also means Couture never fully reaches the emotional peaks it seems to be aiming for. Still, the tension beneath the surface is undeniable. Maxine's storyline becomes increasingly focused on choice. Should she pursue treatment and abandon the project she's been preparing for years, or should she risk her health to complete the film that feels like her final statement? A doctor, played by Vincent Linden, urges her to take her condition seriously, emphasizing the urgency of care. But urgency doesn't always translate to clarity. Ada faces her own version of homelessness. The apartment arranged by her agency isn't really hers. Returning home would mean stepping back into uncertainty. She exists in between worlds, belonging fully to none of them. Angelli, despite being the most stable on paper, is given the least narrative space. While she's compelling, the script clearly prioritizes Maxine and Ada. That imbalance leaves Angelli feeling like a presence rather than a fully realized arc. As Paris Fashion Week reaches its conclusion, the film builds toward a show in the city's outskirts. Even this moment of supposed triumph feels muted. A storm rolls in, threatening to undo months of work. The effort, the sacrifice, the ambition all feel fragile. Winocour never suggests that fashion is meaningless. These women risk their bodies, their health, and their futures for their work, but the payoff remains uncertain. Couture may be too restrained for its own good. The energy of the supporting characters and the bustling fashion world often clashes with the film's quiet pacing. Jolie delivers a clear and controlled performance, but even she struggles to push against the film's refusal to escalate. What Couture ultimately offers is not catharsis, but reflection. It's a film about women navigating systems that depend on them while simultaneously disregarding their agency. It's about ambition colliding with mortality, about the cost of making a life in spaces that don't slow down for anyone. This isn't a movie designed to impress. It's designed to linger, and whether that restraint feels powerful or frustrating depends entirely on how much silence you're willing to sit with. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments. This is where these kinds of films come to life. Until the next story, stay curious, be critical, keep your eyes on the screen, and remember, every film you haven't seen is a new film.